Two countries that sit on opposite sides of the map once worked together. They shared intelligence, shared oil, shared strategy. Israel and Iran. For nearly 30 years they weren't enemies, they were partners, and almost nobody talks about it. So, how did two countries that now distrust each other once cooperate so closely? And more importantly, what changed? This is Funky History, where history finds its rhythm. Let's rewind. A brand new country appears on the map, Israel. Within hours, war begins. Neighbouring Arab states send armies across the border, and the region divides quickly. Allies, opponents, lines in the sand. For many countries in this region, the position was immediate and clear. But one country looks at the situation differently: Iran. Now that might sound surprising today, but back then, Iran wasn't viewing the region through the same lens as its Arab neighbours. Iran was Persian, not Arab, with a different language, a different history, and a different sense of identity. And in geopolitics, identity matters. Because countries don't just react to events, they interpret them. And Iran was interpreting the region in its own way. In the 1950s, Iran was ruled by Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a leader determined to modernize his country and elevate it on the global stage. He wasn't thinking logically, he was thinking big. Industrial growth, military strength, Western alliances, massive infrastructure projects, highways stretching across the country, universities expanding rapidly, oil wealth fueling transformation. Iran wasn't just developing, it was repositioning itself. And when Iranian leaders looked at Israel, they didn't just see conflict, they saw potential. Israel was small but highly advanced, innovative agriculture, strong intelligence networks, a modern, efficient military, a country solving problems quickly and creatively. At the same time, Israel had a major limitation: energy. Very little oil. Iran, on the other hand, had plenty, and sometimes geopolitics is complex, but sometimes it's simple. One country needs oil, the other wants technology and strategic cooperation. So quietly, without headlines, without public announcements, a partnership begins. Power rarely moves quietly. But this time, it almost did. By the early 1960s, the relationship between Iran and Israel had grown deeper and more structured. Israeli representatives operated in Tehran. Iranian authorities allowed Israeli businesses to function inside the country. Experts moved between both nations: engineers, agricultural specialists, infrastructure planners, exchanging knowledge and building systems. Not symbolic cooperation, practical cooperation, real-world results. There were even direct flights between Tel Aviv and Tehran. Pause and imagine that. In the 1970s, you could book a flight from Tel Aviv to Tehran, a short trip filled with business travelers, diplomats and engineers. Just another internal connection. Hard to picture today, but history can surprise you. This partnership wasn't just about trade, it was strategic. To understand it, think about it like a neighborhood. If several houses on your street suddenly form a tight alliance, sharing security, coordinating decisions, pooling resources, and your house is outside that group, you start looking for your own partners. That's exactly what was happening, because during the 1950s and 60s, a powerful movement was spreading across the Middle East: Arab nationalism. Led by figures like Gamal Abdel Nasser in Egypt, the goal was unity among Arab states, politically, militarily, and strategically. A shared identity, a shared direction, a shared power structure. For Israel, this was an obvious concern. But for Iran, it created a different kind of risk. If Arab states unified, Iran could find itself surrounded by a powerful regional bloc. So both countries looked at the map and reached a similar conclusion: cooperation made sense. Historians later called this the Alliance of the Periphery. Israel building quiet relationships with non-Arab countries like Iran, Turkey, and Ethiopia. Not friendships, alignments. Because geopolitics doesn't run on emotion, It runs on interests. One of the most important collaborations came in 1968, the Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline. Iranian oil arrived at Israel's port of Eilat on the Red Sea. From there, it traveled across the country through a massive pipeline and reached the Mediterranean, where it was shipped to Europe. The route bypassed the Suez Canal, avoided politically sensitive transit zones, and created a faster, more controlled energy corridor. Efficient, strategic, quiet. But energy wasn't the only connection. Behind the scenes, intelligence agencies were also working together. Israel's Mossad and Iran's Savak developed close ties. They exchanged information, shared training methods, analyzed regional threats together. They were watching the same map. The Soviet Union to the north, instability across the Middle East, conflicts reshaping alliances. Sometimes shared threats create unexpected partnerships. Then everything changed. In 1979, Iran experienced a revolution. But revolutions don't appear overnight. They build. Over time, pressure grows. Economic inequality, political dissatisfaction, cultural tension between modernization and tradition. And eventually, it reaches a breaking point. Millions of people took to the streets. The Shah left the country, and a new leader returned from exile. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Iran became an Islamic Republic. And with that transformation came a completely different worldview. Israel was no longer a quiet partner, it became an ideological enemy. Diplomatic ties were cut, offices were closed, and the Israeli embassy in Tehran was handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization. The alliance didn't fade slowly, it flipped. And that changed everything. But history rarely moves in straight lines. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, when Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, unexpected reports began to surface. Investigators later revealed that limited indirect connections still existed between Israel and Iran during parts of the conflict. Why? Because Iraq, at that moment, was a shared threat. And when threats align, strategies shift. Not friendship, not trust, just overlapping interests. Yes, geopolitics adapts to circumstances. So, what does this all mean? When we look at modern headlines, it's easy to assume rivalries have always existed, that enemies were always enemies. But history tells a different story. Relationships change, alliances shift, power recalculates. Countries that oppose each other today may have cooperated in the past. Understanding that doesn't predict the future, but it gives something just as important: perspective. Because geopolitics is never permanent. It's shaped by leadership, economics, security concerns, and timing. The story of Iran and Israel reminds us of something simple and powerful. Today's rivals were once partners. Not because they agreed on everything, but because at one moment in time their interests aligned. History doesn't forget, it layers. And sometimes, if you look closely, those layers reveal something unexpected, a rhythm beneath the surface.